She was just a cleaner trying to get to work. One splash of mud changed her life. The woman who mocked her had no idea someone powerful was watching. It was a cold, quiet morning. The sky was gray, and the road was still wet from last night's rain. Lara, a young woman in her early 20s, walked carefully along the roadside, holding her small bag of breakfast and a pair of old cleaning gloves. Her uniform was clean but worn out, and her shoes were almost giving way. Still, she walked with purpose. She didn't want to be late for her cleaning job at Granville Suites. As she neared the main road, she heard the loud roar of a car engine. A shiny white SUV was speeding toward her. Before she could step away, the tires hit a deep puddle. In one awful moment, muddy water splashed all over her, her face, her clothes, her bag. Everything was soaked and dirty. The SUV didn't stop. Instead, the tinted window rolled down just enough to show a well-dressed woman laughing. Her lipstick was bright red, and she wore huge sunglasses. "Watch where you stand next time," she shouted before zooming off. Lara stood there in shock. Her lips trembled, her eyes burned, but she didn't cry. She just picked up her muddy bag and continued walking. From across the street, a black car sat quietly. Inside was a man named Derek, a silent observer. He had watched the entire thing happen, the splash, the laugh, the shame on Lara's face. Derek's eyes narrowed. He knew the rich lady, Bianca. She was famous for her fashion line and her pride. But what she didn't know was that today, her actions had been witnessed by someone who didn't believe in letting people suffer silently. He picked up his phone. "Find out who that girl is," he said calmly. "I want to know everything." Lara arrived at Granville Suites looking like a storm had passed over her. Her once clean uniform now had brown stains, her hair stuck to her face, and her shoes squished with every step. As she stepped into the side entrance, her supervisor, Mr. Benson, frowned. "Lara, you're late." "And what is this mess?" he barked. She lowered her eyes. "I was splashed by a car. I tried to clean up, but—" "No excuses," he snapped. "Get to work. This place needs to be spotless before the guests arrive." Lara nodded and walked toward the cleaning closet. Her co-workers glanced at her. Some shook their heads in pity, but no one spoke. No one helped. She changed into an old backup uniform, tied her hair up, and got to cleaning like nothing had happened. But inside, Lara was hurting. She thought of her little sister back at home, still sleeping in their one-room apartment. She thought of the job she couldn't afford to lose. So she pushed through. Meanwhile, Derek sat in his office, a tall glass building downtown. He wasn't just any man. He was one of the city's youngest CEOs, a quiet billionaire who preferred to observe than talk. His assistant brought in the file he requested. Her name is Lara James. Age 23. Works 2 cleaning jobs. Lives in East Grove. Takes care of her younger sister. Mother passed 2 years ago. Derek stared at the photo attached to the file, Lara smiling gently beside a small child. He tapped the photo lightly. "She didn't deserve that," he muttered. His assistant raised an eyebrow. "Do you want me to do something?" Derek looked up. "Yes. But not yet. Let's watch a little more." Bianca Rivers stood in front of a mirror inside her luxury penthouse, adjusting her gold necklace. Her phone buzzed non-stop, messages from fans, stylists, and brand partners. She was one of the city's most followed fashion influencers and the daughter of a real estate mogul. She smiled at her reflection, proud and perfect. "That girl was standing too close to the road," she said, sipping her green smoothie. "She should be grateful I didn't drive over her toes." Her assistant, Kira, gave a nervous chuckle. "Yeah, sure." Bianca never looked back. She believed life was about winners and losers, and she was born to win. But across town, Lara's day was dragging. Every time she bent down to mop or dust, her back ached. Still, she kept her chin up and whispered small prayers to herself. One more day. Just get through today. Around noon, she went behind the building to eat her small lunch, a piece of bread and bottled water. She sat alone on a crate, her fingers trembling as she unwrapped the food. Then a man walked past the hotel entrance and stopped. It was Derek, dressed casually, wearing a cap and sunglasses. He pretended to check his phone, but his eyes were on her. He saw how gently she ate, how she checked her phone for any missed call, probably from her sister. There was no makeup, no glamour. Just a young woman who life kept pushing down but who kept standing anyway. Derek's chest tightened. He didn't know her, but something about Lara reminded him of his late mother, strong, quiet, and never asking for help. He walked away slowly, but a plan was already forming in his mind. She doesn't know it yet, he thought. But her story is about to change. The next morning, Lara woke up early as usual. She tied her sister Zara's shoelaces, packed her lunch, and kissed her forehead. Be good at school, okay? Zara nodded, smiling. You too, Lara. Lara took the long bus ride to Granville Suites, still wearing her backup uniform. The stains from yesterday's splash were still on her only good one, soaking in a bucket at home. When she arrived, something strange happened. Inside her locker was a small paper bag. Inside the bag was a pair of new gloves, a warm sandwich wrapped in foil, and a folded note. For the girl who works with grace, even when the world is unkind. Lara blinked. She looked around, but no one seemed to notice. She opened the sandwich slowly. It was fresh, still warm. She hadn't had a hot breakfast in weeks. She didn't know who left it, but for the first time in a long while, she smiled. Far away in his office, Derek looked through the hotel's internal camera feed, one he had legal access to, thanks to a security partnership. He watched her reaction and nodded to himself. Small steps, he whispered. Meanwhile, Bianca was on a talk show, talking about her latest designer bag. The host praised her elegance, and she smiled for the cameras like nothing in the world could touch her. But the moment the show ended, Bianca snapped at her team. My coffee was too cold. Fire the new girl. No one dared speak back. That was Bianca's world, cold, sharp, and filled with masks. But things were changing. That evening, Derek made another call. I want her promoted, he said to the hotel's regional manager. Find a way. Quietly. The manager hesitated. She's just a cleaner. Derek's voice turned firm. She's not just anything. Lara was sweeping the hotel's grand lobby when the head supervisor called her over. Lara James, he said, looking at a clipboard. She nodded, nervous. You've been moved to VIP floor maintenance. Starts tomorrow. Better pay. Less mess. Her eyes widened. Sir, are you sure? I didn't apply. It's been approved, he cut in. Congratulations. She bowed slightly. Thank you, sir. The moment she walked away, whispers began. VIP floor. For her. Did she charm someone? She must know someone high up. Lara heard it all but said nothing. She had no idea why her life was shifting, but deep down, she felt a quiet joy. She shared the news with Zara later that evening, and her little sister hugged her tightly. See? Good things can happen. Days turned into weeks, and Lara adjusted to her new role on the VIP floor. The work was lighter, the environment quieter, and the pay, though still modest, was enough to allow her and Zara a few small luxuries. She bought new shoes, repaired the leaking roof of their apartment, and even enrolled Zara in after-school classes. Still, she didn't know why the promotion had happened. She hadn't pulled any strings, hadn't asked for favors. But whoever had helped her, she was grateful, deeply grateful. Then came the invitation. One afternoon, just as she was finishing her shift, the hotel manager approached her personally, a rare occurrence. "There's a private event tomorrow evening," he said, not looking her in the eye. "You're requested to help with setup and service. Only a few staff members were selected." Lara blinked. "But I usually don't work evening shifts, sir. This isn't usual." Instructions came from above. She didn't question further. She nodded, took the event schedule, and promised to be there. The next evening, she arrived in a fresh uniform and neatly tied her hair. She was nervous. The event was being held in the rooftop ballroom, a place she'd only ever seen from pictures. When she stepped inside, her eyes widened. Golden chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Long glass windows offered a view of the city lights. There were flower arrangements as tall as people and a string quartet playing softly in the corner. It was the kind of place that belonged in movies. Lara moved quietly, setting napkins, adjusting cutlery, making sure no fingerprint touched any glass. She was near the back when the guests began to arrive, men in sharp tuxedos, women in gowns that sparkled like stars. Then he walked in. Derek. He wasn't wearing his usual disguise. No cap, no sunglasses. Just a tailored suit and an air of quiet command. People turned when he entered. Some greeted him like royalty. Others stepped aside respectfully. Lara almost dropped the tray she was holding. "That's him," she whispered to herself. "That's the man I saw watching outside that day." She realized in that moment, he had to be the one behind the gloves, the sandwich, the promotion. She tried to look away, but then their eyes met across the room. And he smiled. A simple, kind smile, nothing flashy, nothing forced. Lara quickly turned back to her work, her heart racing. She didn't want to assume anything. Rich people smiled all the time. It didn't mean anything. But Derek had noticed her. And he remembered. As the night went on, Derek moved through the crowd, speaking politely, raising a toast. But his eyes kept drifting back to her. Not because she was the most beautiful woman in the room, but because she had something rare. Grace under pressure. Dignity in silence. Strength without show. When the event ended, and most of the guests had left, Derek walked toward the exit. He paused near the back where Lara was folding tablecloths. He stood there quietly for a moment. "You did a great job tonight," he said. Lara turned, startled. "Thank you, sir." He looked at her more closely. "You don't remember me, do you?" She hesitated. "I think I saw you once. Outside the hotel. The day I got splashed." He nodded. "I saw what happened. And I saw how you kept walking. Kept working. I respect that." She looked down, unsure how to respond. He added softly, "People underestimate quiet strength. But not me." Before she could speak, he handed her a small white card. "No pressure," he said. "But if you ever want to work somewhere bigger, let me know." She took the card with trembling hands. It had no logo, just a name, Derek Miles, and a number. By the time she looked up, he was gone. Back at her penthouse, Bianca Rivers scrolled through social media, fuming. Her latest collection launch had underperformed. A new influencer had taken the spotlight, and people online were calling her brand predictable. "What do they know?" she shouted, throwing her phone on the bed. Kira, her assistant, tried to calm her down. "Maybe it's time to do something different. Show a more human side, like philanthropy or giving back." Bianca glared. "I'm not a charity. I'm a brand." But deep inside, she felt something slipping. Fame was a ladder, and she was starting to fall. What she didn't know was that the same man who had once admired her business drive, Derek, was no longer impressed. He'd seen who she really was that day by the roadside. And he hadn't forgotten.